Hi everyone, I'm Miss Elizabeth from South Huntington Public Library, and today I have some stories for you about gnomes. Our first story is called Goodnight Garden Gnome. It's by Jamichael Hunterly, and this book has no words. It just has pictures. So let's see if we can figure out the story just from looking at the pictures. Do you see the garden gnome? And I see a little girl too. Do you see her? And I see some birds. And is that a little chipmunk? Oh no, that's the frog. All right, let's look. Good night, garden gnome. I see the gnome again, and this time the girl has her friends in a wagon. Oh boy, I think the little girl found the gnome. Is she carrying him over to her friends? He's gonna go for a ride with the other animals. Here, take a look at the pictures. Do you ever take your toys outside to play with? Oh, look how fun. There's the gnome and a doll and some bears. Uh-oh, what's happening here? Is this bear gonna fall out of the wagon? And I think I see a puppy and a giraffe. No, the little bear landed on the ground. But the rest of the animals are having a tea party. Do you see the pink teapot? Oh look, it must be time to play dress up. Does the gnome look silly? And over here the girl's dressing up one of the bears. Looks like the gnome is floating in the bird bath. I'm not sure the birds like that. What do you think? Now look at him. He's upside down. Oh, it's starting to get dark. There's our gnome. And the little girl says, "Good night, garden gnome." I guess she's headed home to sleep. Or do you think the gnome went to sleep? It looks like he's getting up. He doesn't look like a little statue anymore. He looks like a real little person. Looks like he's going to do some gardening. Oh yes, he's working in the garden. And now he's visiting with some of the woodland animals. These might be snails or slugs over here. I think he's telling them, don't eat the garden. And he's sharing some lettuce with the bunnies. What's happening here? I see lots of little animals. There's the frog and the chipmunks and a squirrel and some mice. And I think the gnome is saying, "Oh, Mr. Cat, please wait. Don't scare the little animals." I guess it's time to water the plants. And look who he finds. Isn't that the little bear that the girl dropped before? So the garden gnome and the bear and the turtle and the mouse and the rabbit, they're all watching the sun come back up. Oh, doesn't that look like fun? The gnome and the bear are riding on the rabbit's back. But look who's coming. That's a big dog. Look what that dog did. He picked up the gnome, and the gnome dropped the bear. And then the dog put everybody in the hole that he dug. There's his bone and his tennis ball, and our poor gnome and the little bear. That's not good. And then the dog saw the bunny. See the bunny? Right over here. So I think the gnome jumped out of that hole with the bear. And then he climbed up to the window. And look, the next morning when the little girl got out of bed, there was her bear. And there's the gnome back outside. And all of her stuffed animals back in her room. She must like that gnome. I see that she drew a picture of him. And that's the end. That one was called Good Night Garden Gnome. Weren't those pictures pretty? Okay, so our next story is a silly gnome story. This one is called Go Big or Go Gnome, and it's by Kirsten Mayer and illustrated by Laura K. Horton. This is Albert the Gnome. You can call him Al. See him? Al lives in a hollowed-out mushroom cap with a roof of pine cone shingles and a front door made of a sturdy acorn top. Al works in a garden with other gnomes. Melvin sweeps up sticks and stones. Earl rakes rows of very small rocks. Bartleby has dandelion duty, fluffing the fluff. Cliff bathes the birds and fills the fountains. Harold wrangles wiggly worms. Al takes care of the shrubbery, trimming a leaf here and there to keep tidy. There's Al. And his best friend, Norm, sweeps up after him. See how all these busy gnomes have imperial beards and illustrious mustaches? All of them do, except Al. He tries and tries, but he can't grow a single whisker on his face. Can you tell which one is Al? That's too bad for Al, because the biggest event of the year for gnomes is the BIG, the Beards International Gnomathlon. Every gnome in the garden grooms and prunes, primps and crimps to win trophies for longest beard, bushiest beard, and overall best beard. Every gnome except Al. This really gets my goatee, says Norm. It's not fair for you to be left out. Al strokes his smooth chin thoughtfully. I have an idea. This is Engelbert the Gnome, the Grandmaster Judge of Whiskers. It takes a lot to impress old Engelbert. The first contest is for longest beard. Gnomes line up to see whose scruff is the most inchworms long. Al steps up next, and he has a beautiful long white beard. It's so light and fluffy that it floats in the air. Well, what have we here? Did Albert finally sprout some whiskers? Asks Engelbert, chuckling. When the old gnome leans in for a closer look, something tickles his nose. He lets out a great big achoo, and dozens of tiny white butterflies flutter away. False beard, roars Engelbert. The next competition is for bushiest beard. Al's beard is now a unique reddish color and very bushy. Did that beard just twitch? Asks the old gnome. Oh no, sir, I just wiggled my chin, says Al. Suddenly there is a chitter under Al's cap. Engelbert whisks it off and uncovers a squirrel. False beard, he roars. Norm smushes some moss onto Al's face, but it just plops to the ground. It's no use, says Al. I'm just a boring bare-faced gnome. I'll never win longest or bushiest or overall best beard. I'll never be a winner, not ever. Al goes home and trims some shrubbery to keep himself busy. A little while later, Norm runs up in a panic. Al, I need your help. I got tree sap in my beard and now it's stuck, he says. I'll never win best beard tomorrow. Can you fix it? Al goes to work. He snips and clips all the tree sap out of his friend's beard. Then he trims a little more. There you go. I did what I could, says Al. It's a little different. Norm runs to the bird bath to look at his reflection in the water. His new beard looks gnome-tastic. Wow, Norm, that's some beard you have there, says Bartleby. It's a real zinger, says Cliff. Where'd you get it? Al trimmed my beard for me. Now I'll win best beard for sure, Norm shouts as he jumps up and down. Sure it's real? Asks Melvin, giving it a yank. Maybe I should get a beard trim from Al too, wonders Harold. Last one there is a rotten acorn, cries Earl as he takes off running. The next morning, Al wakes up and shuffles outside. He's shocked to see a long line of gnomes waiting in front of his house. Look, Al, Norm says. Every gnome wants you to trim their beards too. I better get started. It will be a close shave to get every gnome ready in time. Later that day, a parade of gnomes struts through the garden, showing off an array of amazing beards. Engelbert can't believe his eyes. Goodness grapeness! Fancy feathers! Bristles and banjos! Whimsy and whiskers! Engelbert claps his hands to silence the crowd. Every beard here today is truly special. I have never seen anything like it in the history of the BIG. I declare the competition for best beard to be a 30-way tie. Every gnome wins. Engelbert walks over to Al and hands him a trophy. Albert, you are getting a special prize. For bringing beards to a new level and raising the handlebar for this competition, you are the winner of the first award for Best Barber. Every gnome cheers as loudly as they can. Albert the gnome is the winner! After After much celebrating, Al walks home. He thinks about where to put his trophy. He doesn't even notice that his light is on and the acorn door is slightly open. Hi, I'm Ginger. I was wondering, can you give me a haircut? The end. Go big or go gnome. Did you like those fluffy white beards? I made a gnome and you can too. Keep watching so you can see this craft. Goodbye, everybody.